Well, there it is. Welcome in. Glad you guys are here. GPS to God. Make sure you go check out the website, gpstogod.com. You can email us, mailroom@gpstogod.com. You know all that stuff already. We're not going to waste a lot of time because we have a lot of good stuff to get to. Let's go around the table here. Miss Sondra Dean, Daniel Sanders, Stefano Patterson, Dana Morrow, and Miss Ann Barkley. So glad all of you are here. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Glad to be here.
Yeah.
We're a little shuffled up here today, Stefano. This is the first time I've never not sat in that seat right there.
Ooh. Special seat.
Changing it up a little bit, at least for this episode. So I saw Ryan today.
Okay.
Just a little while ago.
Yeah. How's he doing?
He was good. He did not have the baby with him.
Oh.
Okay.
So
I want to hold that sweet baby.
I have beat you to it.
Oh, man.
Take that, Sondra.
Right.
Are they coming to church?
No.
Sunday?
No, I don't think so. I don't know.
I think they are.
Well, they may be. You may know more than I do.
Lori brought them food last night, and I think they're planning on coming.
Well,
Let's hope so.
Sunday.
So Sondra is notorious for holding babies, new babies,
I steal the babies
around
That's
the
right.
church here, and she actually stole a baby from me a couple months ago. I was holding actually Ryan's niece, and was holding her, and Sondra gave me about 10 minutes, and she said, "That's enough. I'll take her back."
That
so
sounds
yeah,
about right.
I got one up on her. I have held baby Navy, baby Navy.
Okay.
So. But today, speaking of children and babies and all that stuff, that's why we have these three lovely ladies here, is to talk about kids, children, whatever other names you may want to give them. But they are here to give some parenting advice, motherly advice, and who knows what else. Stefano has some zingers he brought, he said. I do have some inside information that I'm going to throw out in a little bit.
Goodness.
In a little bit.
No.
Not yet.
Oh, wow.
That's frightening. That is frightening.
That
We are
is.
not ready for that yet. But
And our children might want you to scratch this episode.
some of your children may have given me inside information.
Oh, wow.
So,
Dug deep.
but I think this episode was Stefano's idea. Great idea to have ladies here with all different age of children and get some advice and stories, good times, bad times, from little babies all through adulthood. So maybe we can just start with tell how many children you have and kind of the age range. You don't have to give all of them necessarily, but
Okay.
oldest and youngest. Or you
Well,
can give all of them. It's
Okay.
up to you.
All right. I have 4 children. Do you want me to give their names or no?
That's up to you. It's up
And, well, Ty's just turned 23. Mia just turned 21. Krista just turned 19. And we say God surprised us for our 40th birthdays, and Eli's 9.
So 23 down to 9.
That's right.
23, 4 kids, 23 down to 9. Dana? I can't see Dana.
Yes,
That's a little
I know.
fun.
I know,
You know,
that's okay.
normally we can see each other.
That's
but
true. That's okay.
I'll lean back.
No,
I
you're
have,
good, man. You're good.
Brett, who is 15, about to start driving. Reese is 13. Channing is 10. And Neely is 5. So we're 5 to 15.
5 to 15. Miss Ann?
Yeah, I just only have 2. I don't know what happened. I do know what happened. I was so sick when I was pregnant. I said, this is it. But I have 2 daughters, and one is in her late 30s, and the other is in her early 40s.
So you see her, she has 2 daughters. They're old enough she can't say their specific age.
I think I probably could, but I don't want to get shot down by them.
That's what I'm talking
later.
about. Like
That
from
was
them,
Very
wise.
safe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
from their standpoint, they would not want you to give their age. And that's look, mom's always on top of it right there. Great example of that.
Yes.
So 2 kids, 4 kids. Stefano has 2. I have 2. And Sondra has 4. 2 seems to be the magic number here. Ryan has 2 now.
He does.
Yeah. So
4 is pretty magic in my book.
That is, it's pretty unbelievable.
Yes.
So all of you have children, at least a little older in the teenage years. To this point, what has been maybe one of the hardest periods of we're going deep here early, and then we're going to
Yes,
come
we
back to
are.
some fun
Right,
stuff.
right.
Didn't even warm up or anything. You just,
No. These moms can. They're experienced.
They are.
4 kids, there's nothing that throws you off.
Hey, right.
But what may be a hardest period of motherhood?
So I had always heard, as my kids were getting older, that middle school was rough, especially for girls. It seemed like my girls sort of sailed through middle school, but high school was rough. So that kept me on my knees often.
Rough from like attitude points or dating or
No, not necessarily even attitude, just helping them navigate friendships, good, right friendships. Wanting more independence
yeah.
from their parents.
And Dana mentioned driving. We talked about that a couple weeks ago with my daughter who's been driving for a year now. And that, it's easy, but it's hard. Easy, but it's hard. But anything else come to mind of maybe a hard time and how, we didn't get into how you dealt with it, but we'll come back to that. Maybe a hard time for you all? Stefano, feel free. We want the ladies to talk, but if something comes up, feel free.
I'm going to let them answer. If anybody else wants to answer that, I'm going to.
Two smart dads over here.
I'm going to jump right in.
Two smart dads. We just sit in the back and let the ladies talk.
Yes.
Age 13 was the most difficult part, unless you add in, which for me, I add in difficulties when they're adults.
Right.
That's a whole new ball game. But
well, that's something we want to talk to, and why we have Stefano had the great insight of having mothers here with children of many different ages. From how old, Eli? 9. How
Five.
old? 5.
Neely's
So
5,
5 up to early 40s.
Yeah. But middle school was hard for me with our girls. But I learned a lot as, being a mother. I learned to major on the majors and not on the minors. Mm-hmm. And I learned what some of the minors were. Just throw those out. They're not important. Let it go. Let a clean room, let it go.
Yes, I learned that too.
Hairstyles, let it go. Those are not majors. So I did learn something from that difficult time. But
Those are
they
great.
came back. Like teen years for our family, they were a breeze.
Wow.
Later teen, yeah.
The preschool years are hard physically.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing everything for them. So you're physically drained every day.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I'm basically out of those years, and I've had 2 boys come through most of middle school. Those are tough years. I don't know if the hormones are just like, and they don't really even understand what they're feeling and how to verbalize what they're feeling. They just know they're feeling differently, I'm sure. And so those are some difficult times. They're feeling bigger, and I need to recognize that. And it's a different kind of hard when you get to middle school. Mm-hmm. It's more of a mental and emotional hard, where those early years are a physical, I'm exhausted kind of hard.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it a little funny how none of us went through any of that when we were kids?
Right.
Everything was great.
We were perfect.
But all of our kids have these issues.
13-year-olds.
It was.
Yes.
It was.
Yes.
Advice that you would give to just one piece of advice that you would give to a new mom.
Like for which age? Like for the baby age or?
Baby age, just raising,
Kid number one. Just got here.
Just got here. What would you?
I'd say hold it as much as it needs. You'll hear all kinds of parenting tips, and some say, you gotta lay them down. You gotta lay them down.
Let them cry it out.
Yeah, right. But that time's really short. Once they get a little older, 6 months or so, you can start laying them down. But they love to be held. So yes, that's a big part of a mama's job.
I remember when Ashlyn, our oldest, was born. When they're real little, but then as soon as they start, they're a month, 2 months old and start moving around, it's let's get them walking, let's get them crawling, and then as soon as they start walking and crawling, come here, let me hold you, sit down, like stop moving. But yeah, it's funny how we try and rush those things because everything's a competition. Well, my baby walked at, 10 months old and all that. But yeah, I hold them.
Well, on piggybacking with that, part of my thought would be just don't wish it away, even the hard times, because they are such short phases and they're terrible sometimes when you're in the middle of them.
Yeah.
But to wish them away and then you're through it and then you're kind of sad. You want to go back, maybe relive it, and you can't. So as hard as it is, don't wish it away.
My advice would be pray way more than you think you need to pray. Keep pray. And one of my little phrases is you need to parent on your knees. Parent on your knees.
That's two good ones she's given us already.
She's good.
That's right. Yes, she's full of them.
All the good ones.
Yeah.
All the good ones.
And I'll amen all that too.
Yeah, major on the majors and not on the minors, and parent on your knees. That's
And that's something that I have not been good at because Grant is 4, and just like you said, I've caught myself kind of saying, man, can't wait till he's like 10. And I've caught myself saying that, and going back, I know that it won't last forever no matter how rough it is, but I've caught myself trying not to wish away these times. So.
Yeah. We talked about that a couple weeks ago too. Carter, this past summer was the last time we'll be on the field together as a coach, player, father, son. And I mean, I enjoy sitting in the stands watching. But yeah, it hadn't hit me yet, but I know it will. Man, I want to be back on the field. So yeah, don't wish it away. All right, let's. Man, we started heavy. Just 13 minutes in, we're cranking. Let's back up a little bit. Yeah,
let's go in reverse order.
Take a deep breath for a second. Take a deep breath.
All right.
Anybody have picky eaters? Any of your kids picky eaters?
Yes.
We got a couple yeses and a no. How do you handle that? What did you do with a picky eater? How picky are they, I guess? And did you let them eat whatever they want? Did you try and force feed? How did you handle a picky eater?
I can remember when mine were all younger, when we would be sitting around the table, they really didn't like milk. And I'm talking about like upper elementary age, maybe. And so I would say, okay, I'm going to pour a half a glass of milk, and you've got to drink that, and then you can have some juice or water. So, and but I haven't done that with Eli, though. So it was easier when they were all sort of the same age. Yeah. And yes.
What's the difference between Eli and Krista?
She was 9. She was 9.
No, I did not let mine eat whatever they want.
No. Yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah.
They can eat what I fixed, or they cannot eat.
Old school mentality.
Harsh,
that's what I grew up with.
Way to go, Dana.
That's right. Yeah.
So we have a picky eater in our family, not in our household, but in our family, and just doesn't eat much of anything. But they'll let them eat candy or what, just to get them some calories. I say candy. It's like like some muffin, like the little pack of muffins or something like that. Something sweet like that, just to get him to eat. He's like, he hadn't eaten all day. Let him eat whatever he picks out, kind of thing. But we didn't have picky eater. Our kids ate and ate well, but there's so many different tactics people take of a picky eater. What do you do? Grant's kind of picky, right?
Grant's really picky. But, he's got a certain set of things that he can eat. We just get tired of feeding him the same thing, I guess, all the time. So we try to, and I guess he'll come out of it. So he eats, but it's just us being selfish that, why don't you try this?
You give him the hamburger sandwich routine yet?
No, he still doesn't like sandwiches.
So Grant likes hamburgers, but not sandwiches.
He won't eat
I told him next time he gets a hamburger, tell him it's a hamburger sandwich and see if that opens up the sandwich world.
Yeah.
Peanut butter and jellies, no. Grilled cheese every once in a while.
Yeah, Eli doesn't like sandwiches either. He doesn't like sandwiches either, so that's tough for school.
Tough for lunches.
To pack for school. He does like apples, thankfully.
Yeah.
He likes yogurt,
Yeah.
you know. But
Yeah, that was the thing. He doesn't like chicken.
Well, that's hard.
Who, Grant?
No.
No,
Grant doesn't like chicken?
doesn't like chicken nuggets or anything. He'll grow out of it, I guess. He's surviving.
Yeah.
Thick
He's
little
healthy.
kid.
He's got plenty of energy. I know
That
that.
he does. That he does.
Whatever he eats is working.
I guess so. Guess so. What are ways that dads can support moms throughout, like, parenting and throughout the years? No specific age, but what are some ways that the dads can support moms more?
Are you saying go ask your mom isn't cutting it?
It's probably
That's
not.
the opposite.
It's probably not the best.
That's the opposite.
well, I do know. I have a little example. When the kids would bring home their weekly folders of their graded work, I would go through them. Obviously, you know, I'm home when they get home from school or whatever. And when Dennis would get home, I would have him sit down with them and talk through their homework also. Okay. And hearing correction from mama is one thing, but hearing correction from a dad means a lot too, you know. So for the dads just to stay involved with whatever the kids are involved in too, you know. Yeah.
Go ahead, Ann.
Okay. One way that Rick was always very supportive and I loved was he did a devotional with our girls once they started school. And, you know, they have to be at school at 8, so they had to sit and eat breakfast before he went to work. And he always did a devotional while they were eating breakfast with them. And it was all him. I was just in the back. I was just back in the kitchen, you know, cooking or doing whatever. And he did that. And I mean, for several years, the girls would sit there and eat and listen to him, and he'd be reading the devotional and praying with them, and their heads were down like this, like, okay, I know I've got to sit here and listen to this, and I'm not really very happy about it. But then eventually, as they got to be teenagers, their heads started going up.
Oh.
And it was so great to see that. Mm-hmm. And they started, you could tell their hearts were engaged eventually. But I mean, morning after morning, because it was discouraging for Rick because they had their heads buried in their breakfast. And that's discouraging.
Yeah.
But he did it anyway. And I was always so proud of him that he never gave up. He didn't give up on that. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, the Lord has, I mean, they're both, you know, following Christ today. So that was probably part of that. I don't know, you know, but yeah, I loved that.
Mm-hmm. Dana, did you have something to add on to that?
Well, I was just going to take this second to brag on Jason because he is so involved with our kids. He meets each of them where they are, from baseball to driving to baby dolls and playing school and everywhere in between. He is fabulous at engaging with our kids. And in turn, I mean, that frees me up then to, you know, take on dinner without interruption, and it's smoother, and just different things like that. He is so good. So, just wanted to brag on him.
That's great. Yeah, that's good.
Going back a little bit to something you said of, you know, Dennis is involved after he comes home. I heard somebody talk about one time of parenting, and they said, you know, the dad was the discipliner when he got home. So it was just, all right, here's what little Timmy did today. You got to get on him because of, you know, the mom would tell him, he did this, go get him, kind of thing. And the dad was like, I don't want to just be that. Like, I want to come in and let's just play, or let's, you know, let's do go over homework, or I don't want to come in and, okay, you're in trouble because dad's home now. Did you all split discipline, or what? Did one of you take more of an active discipliner? Is that a real word? We're going to use it.
Disciplinarian.
We're going to use it.
Disciplinarian. That sounds right.
Discipliner.
Discipliner doesn't
Discipliner, I
sound.
like
No.
that
that.
sounds.
Not
There you
long
go.
enough.
That's
No.
a Tennessee word.
That
Yeah,
is.
yeah,
As
yeah.
we're in the South.
Yeah.
Disciplinarian. How did you all divide that, or how do you divide that?
We share it, but my kids and Dennis would probably tell you I'm more of the discipline giver. However you say that. Disciplinarian. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, he does. And I think children need both.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. It's got to have a balance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Kind of fall into that same category. I mean, we're home with them during the day or even those hours after school before the dad gets home. So I think it's natural to do more,
Right.
but it's a team effort.
Mm-hmm.
Needs to
Definitely.
be.
Yeah.
Needs to be. Need to be on the same page for sure.
I'm glad we're beyond those years. I really am.
Jealous.
I know. You're going to be glad when you get this. Yeah. But we shared it pretty much.
Would anybody throw a football at one of your kids if you were mad at them? Maybe in a discipline scenario or something?
I knew this was going to come up. I knew this was going to come up.
There's a backstory to this.
It was a small styrofoam. Oh yes, I
you
might
got
have
ratted
been
out.
upset. Yes, yes.
That was some of
yes.
your digging
but
that
he,
you did.
But he
I
liked.
didn't even dig. This was offered up freely.
I'm sure. But he liked to play football, so there was one handy, and yes, I was not quick to listen, slow to speak.
This is Sondra.
Yeah.
Goodness, I didn't know
If
Quick
you,
to throw, it looks like quick to throw.
Right.
Yeah.
yeah, if you haven't caught on, Sondra did this. So her son Ty, the oldest, the original baby, who is not a baby anymore,
No,
just
just got
married.
married.
So, but I'm going to give his side of the story.
good.
Okay.
goodness.
You have the whole text.
There's two sides.
I mean, look
always.
at that.
You
Okay,
know,
hey, that's a lot of info. That's a
So,
lot of info. Yes.
According to Ty, he and his two sisters, me and Krista, were cleaning, and Sondra was getting onto the girls for something. Ty didn't know what it was, but Ty had finished his chores. All he had left was to dust, and he did not like to dust, so he saved that to the end. And he went to ask his mom, Sondra, something. And he said, as I was walking over there, there was a football, so I picked it up, and I'm playing with the football while she's yelling at the girls. I wanted her to finish that part. She finished. I thought I was safe. I asked her a question, and before I asked a question, like once she stopped with the girl, I set the football down and asked my question. And I guess she was still mad at that. This is a quote. I guess she was still mad at them because instead of answering the question, she picked up the football and threw a missile right at me from about 3 feet away, and then started yelling at all of us for some reason. So I can't remember what that reason
to
was.
the best of us.
Right. I don't know. We'll see. I don't know.
I can't remember why, because I was so shocked she had just hit me with the football.
That's a lot of detail. I don't remember
It
any
is.
of that detail there. I don't remember any of that. But
Well, I was amazed this afternoon. I was talking to Becca about, she
Yeah.
knew I was coming in, and she told me some stuff. I said, I did not do that. She said, yes, you did.
yeah.
So next time we need to have the children
Yes, we
on
need
to
to
tell
tell
us.
Yes, this leads into a perfect episode.
We're going to have some great
Does.
advice from these lovely mothers,
Yes.
but then we're going to bring the
Yes.
kids on and say,
You'll know
well,
the real story.
That'll be a definite story time.
they
with,
have great advice now. Here's how they got to that
Yes.
advice.
Yes.
You will.
Sondra's entire family, all of her children are very athletic. Now we know where they got it
Right,
from.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
they learned to throw
Starts
that
at the top.
football
Starts at
early.
the top.
Yes, yes. Yeah, they will make you think I'm Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde if you have them on the podcast. Yes.
Did you all find out your first child, the first time you were pregnant, did you find out if it was a boy or girl before having it or no?
No, I didn't with
Did not.
any of my four.
No, surprise on all four.
Mm-hmm. And since the
Nice.
kids the three were older, when Eli was coming along, they were so mad. They wanted to know what he was, and we did not Did not find out.
Was Ty more anxious or not, thinking he may be the only boy?
Well, he had prayed for several years that he wanted a baby brother. And so that's a big story. Did you want me to tell that story?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That's a good
Okay.
story.
Please do.
That's good.
Well, so when he was probably about 9, he really wanted a baby brother. So he started praying every day, more than once a day, for about 6 months that I would have another baby. And Krista would have been about 5 at the time. And we had been trying for a few years, for about 3 years, to have a 4th one, and we couldn't. So I said, Ty, we'll just have to be content with how God's made our family. So he had been, like I said, praying, morning, noon, night, all the time. So during that 6-month time that he was praying, he woke up one morning and he said, Mama, I had a dream that you had another baby, and it was a boy, and we named him Eli Nathaniel Dean because his initials are END, and that's the end for us. So I said,
Very specific.
exactly. So I said, oh, okay. I said, well, Eli, that goes with Ty, Mia, Krista. That could be a doable name, if we had another one to the family. And we at the time, since the girls were still so little, we had those little magnets, those alphabet magnets that you could put on the refrigerator, and they would spell that name, Eli Nathaniel, out with those magnets. So then about 3 years later, I find out I'm expecting. And a dentist said, there's no way it'll be a boy. His dream can't come true, But sure enough, Eli Nathaniel Dean was born.
Oh.
So, yeah.
That's great.
So,
What a great story.
Yeah.
That is great.
But while I was expecting, Ty said he had another dream that Dennis had to help deliver the baby in the McDonald's play area. So I said, we will not go to McDonald's until after this baby is born. So, yeah.
Oh, no.
But I also, and this will be the last part of that, but I also, right before the baby was born, we didn't know if it was a boy or girl. So I looked up what Eli Nathaniel meant. I just Googled, how they give you what names mean. And Eli means high. He was the high priest when Hannah prayed for Samuel. And Nathaniel means gift of God. So Eli Nathaniel means high gift of God, which they're all high gifts of God. So, yeah.
Dana, we'll let you go last because you got a unique situation.
Yes, I do.
Did you find out, Ann, if it was a boy or girl?
Now, remember when my kids were born.
Yeah. 30-something and 40-something years ago.
Yes. So there was no way to know.
Was it? Did they offer that at all, or was it very irreliable?
They didn't with Laurel. There wasn't any. The technology wasn't even there. With Becca, at my 5-month, went in for an ultrasound. There was a possibility, but the technology was bad enough that they couldn't figure it out by looking.
Okay.
They couldn't tell.
Huh.
So no, I didn't know.
I'm making up words left and right. Irreliable, unreliable.
A little nervous?
I guess so. It's a lot of pressure in here.
It
You
is
got
a
any
lot of pressure. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing
Yeah.
whenever we started. It was,
No pressure, guys. No
goodness.
pressure.
Oh my goodness.
We've never had 3 ladies.
We're the ones
Oh,
under
yeah.
pressure.
No, y'all are giving it out. It's
My
tough
goodness.
in here tonight.
Just make up words when all else fails.
Sorry, you can edit that out.
No, it's staying in. All right. Now, Dana, you all have a unique situation. Can you tell what Jason, your husband, does for
He
a living?
Is a sonographer, so we could see as many times as we wanted to what the gender
And
was.
you all knew extra or earlier than most people who have to
Yes.
go to the doctor. And
Yes, we were able to find out closer to about 16 weeks definitively. Most of those scans were at home because he does mobile ultrasound. So he brings his machine home every night. It's just in his car. So I just found out on the couch. And I could name probably 20 ladies in this church that he has scanned
Yes, right, I'm
to
sure.
tell them what they're having before so they didn't have to wait to go to the doctor. Yep.
did y'all find out?
Oh yeah, both of ours.
From
Dana's
Jason.
my sister-in-law.
Yeah.
Dana's my sister-in-law. So yeah.
I mean, I know
So,
you
yeah,
have.
so, yeah.
Not everybody knows that.
Okay, yeah,
That's
yeah.
right.
I
They
didn't
do
say
know.
that in the beginning, but
Yeah.
she's my lovely sister-in-law. So yes, we found out early for both of ours.
I will say we did not find out with our last one.
Really?
We did not. It was something
Really?
different, and we won't go down that road. But I'd had a lot of ups and downs. Had lost 4 babies and had 3 at the time, and so I just kind of didn't really enjoy that last pregnancy because I was a little nervous, and I just kind of almost stiff-armed the pregnancy, so to speak. I just almost acted like it wasn't happening. So I thought if I don't find out the gender, it's not happening. And so we were surprised, which was a lot of fun, I will say. I mean, it was a different take on it, but God brought us through all that. Now we have our 4.
We were not going to find out with Ashlyn. We were doing the 20-week ultrasound, whatever it was, and we had told the lady we don't want to know. And she's going through, we're almost done, and she types on the screen, "It's a girl," and like 30 exclamation points. Like right there where we could, she's like, "I'm going to take this picture for you guys." And she took the picture and typed up, and it was me and Christy and my mother-in-law. And my mother-in-law just looks at the lady and is like, "Did they want to know that?" Because we had told her like 3-4 times at the beginning, we don't want to know. We don't want to.
Wonder what
Just we don't.
happened. That's crazy.
And I think she just forgot, because it was 10, 15 minutes, whatever it was, until the end. And she's like, "I'll take some pictures for you guys." And it's a girl. And we're like, well, nothing we can do now. All right. Let's.
Can't take
I'm
it
sure
back.
the majority do find out. So
Yeah.
the rare occasion.
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
people
Oh, that
don't
lady,
wanna
you could
know.
tell she never said another word. She felt horrible. She just wanted to get out of there
Yeah.
because she
Oh,
knew
she
what she
blew it.
did as soon and she.
I don't think Jason's ever done that.
let me out. That was. I kind of felt bad for her, but
Yeah.
at the same time, you're like, come on, it's your job. You should know. Don't tell me. But
It is neat with all 4 of ours. So when the baby was born, Dennis was able to say, "Oh, well, it's," we would pick out a boy name and a girl name, before we went to the hospital. And so Dennis told me what we were having, or what it was, So that was good. Yeah.
was picking names hard when Christy was pregnant. I remember I was like, pick a name for a baby, because you would hear as I was growing up or whatever, people, "Oh, we're trying to find a name for the name it. It's a baby. Pick a name." But when I was in that, we went back and forth forever trying to find a name and whittle it down. Well, I like this one, but do I just like it for today, or do I like it for a lifetime kind of thing? Did anybody struggle with names, or do you have family names? Did your kids have unique names? Or?
I named Eli.
Well,
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
easy.
that was really
But
unique.
everybody said, if it's not a boy, then it has to have initials END. So I was like, okay. But that made it easier because that narrowed it down,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yes, yeah.
I dreamed Laurel's name, Laurel Elizabeth. And I mean, I woke up that morning, I thought, that's it. And it was Laurel with an A instead of an E. And of course, that's been the bane of her existence. Nobody's ever spelled her name right. I just knew it. That was it. But I didn't know if it was a girl or not. We had boy names picked out because you had to back then. You had
Right.
to have, And Rebecca Jane is my sister's name, and so she was named. Her middle name is my sister, but Rebecca's just. And I wanted, somebody's asked me, several people have asked me through the years, how come you didn't spell Rebecca like the biblical Rebecca? I said, because I messed up with my first daughter's name. I don't want my second daughter to also have a name that nobody spells right ever. And so it's just the normal Rebecca spelling.
How'd y'all come up with it?
We didn't really struggle with ours. It was pretty definitive. We liked Amelia and Grant. If Grant was a girl, we might have had different opinion. Because Lori really, really, really liked the name like Stella, and I didn't.
Stella.
Yeah. If Grant was going to be a girl, and I didn't really like the name Stella.
Not a lot of
Nothing
Stellas
against-
running
I
around.
know. It's one, but she always loved that name for whatever reason. Not over Amelia. But
Isn't that is there a musical or a movie or
There's a
something?
book.
there's a
Book?
movie.
Stella got her groove
How Stella
back.
got her.
No,
groove.
no,
okay.
not
That
that
movie?
one.
That's what I always
There's
think
a
of.
Stella Luna. It's what the kids are in
Yeah.
elementary
So-
school.
So
yeah.
she loved that. She loved that name, but I wasn't a fan. So Grant was a boy, so it was good.
Worked out.
Yeah.
I just know there's a skit in the Seinfeld TV show when they're like, Stella! I didn't know if that was like based in something else.
It's an old movie or something. I think
Yeah.
I remember something in an old play or an old movie.
Ty would tell you this story about Krista's name. So Krista, our third one, he was a few months shy of being 4 when she was born. And we had picked out Emma. She was going to be Emma. But we had trouble coming up with a girl name. And so during our trouble trying to find a name, Dennis had a wonderful aunt that passed away from breast cancer named Christine. So Dennis said, what about Christine? And I said, well, Ty, Mia, and Christine. That's just too long. We can't do Christine. And so I was telling, I think it was actually Rebecca Powell here. I was telling her one Wednesday night about our dilemma. And she said, well, what about you could shorten it to Krista? You could still spell it Christ with an A, and call her Krista. But we still had decided on Emma. Like when we got to the hospital, she was going to be Emma. So that's what we were telling Ty and Mia. And then when she was born, Dennis said, she's not an Emma. I was like, that's not the time to tell me that's not the right name, So since, thankfully, a couple of weeks before she was born, Rebecca and I had that conversation. So we were like, what about Krista? We'd already talked about it a little bit. So we said, yeah, we'll do Krista, Christ with an A, Krista. And so we got home from the hospital with her, and Ty said, what happened to Emma? He thought that we got the wrong baby. Yes, yeah. So
That's cute.
Yeah.
Dana and Jason have
We've used some
Unique.
family names.
Yeah.
Brett's middle name is Alan,
The
which
doubles.
is Jason's. Oh, yeah. That's just a weird thing we got ourselves into.
That's what we're here for.
Oh,
So go
well,
ahead and
I'll
tell
give
us.
you some weird.
Yes. It's not weird.
Reese's middle name is William after my grandfather. And then our last one, Neely, is my maiden name. But after we named Brett Allen, which is Allen, and Morrow, we realized he had double letters in his first, middle, and last name. So that we decided to run with. So we pigeonholed ourselves quite a bit, but we continue that on with all 4 of our children.
Wow, I never realized that. Oh, my.
So Reese, William, Channing, Brooke, and Neely, Wynn, which is Wynne. So it made it a little easier because it
Narrows it
eliminated
down.
a lot of names. Also a little challenging, but
Yeah.
kind of fun and quirky. I know.
Well, one or two, okay, we got this. Maybe a third, but when you get on number 4, you're,
Yes.
Impressive.
yeah.
Yes.
We had been floating names back and forth, and we had a list and marking them off, adding but Ashlyn was born 3 weeks early, and we had not picked a name yet, so we picked in the delivery room
Oh.
her name. And when Christy was pregnant with Carter, we narrowed the name. We did find out he was a boy. We're like, go ahead and tell us. We might as well know. But we had names picked early for him, just in case she went into labor early. And she did, 4.5 weeks early.
Oh, my goodness.
So,
Smart, yes.
but yeah.
What is something that it's okay to brag about yourself because y'all are all 3 great moms.
We do it all the time.
Yeah, we do. Don't
And
feel
we
bad.
make
What
up
is it?
words and all kinds of silly stuff.
What is something that you can say that you did well as a mom and something that you wish that you would have done differently as a mom as far as like parenting goes?
Well, you did have a question that we looked at that said,
He didn't. I did.
okay, yes, Daniel
He-
did. That's
so
right.
this is-
Daniel
this is a
did.
new question to
Daniel
him,
said-
too,
Yes,
so.
okay. So Daniel's question was something like, from your upbringing, your own upbringing, did you like some of the ways?
What's something
What was
you-
that
You
question?
want to change
Yeah.
or something you'd want to do the same?
Do the
Yeah,
same.
what's
yes.
something you
Okay.
experienced
Yes.
growing up
Yes.
that you absolutely wanted to keep
Yes.
with your children or absolutely wanted to
So
change?
my answer
Yeah.
will answer
Yeah,
you,
no, you're
Stefano,
good.
from that too.
You're good.
So my parents were always very involved in my schooling and my sports. Anything that the school had going on, they were there, whether it was a PTO meeting or a PTA back then. whatever kind of programs they had, they were just always there, and even would come, eat lunch when they could take off work. So Dennis and I have done that as well, and that's been so great and beneficial, I think, because you get to know the classmates, their friends, their peers, the families. You get to know the parents of those children, and the teachers, the staff. That was just something good that I love that my parents did, that we did too. That was something I would wish I'd done different, or well, so now that my older three, Krista just went off to college, I wish that we had had more dinners around the table. I wish we had all cooked more as a family. In college, they've started cooking a little more, so that's been nice, But part of that was due to them all being so close in age and involved in so much stuff. It was hard being home in the evenings. And then we made it a priority to be at church twice a week, too, on top of all that. So, but yeah, I wish we had more home-cooked meals.
I think one of the things that I'm glad that I did and I feel pretty good about is when my girls would get home from school in the afternoon, I tried to make sure that everything that I was responsible for was done.
Mm-hmm.
And, if I studied or if I had errands or whatever, when they got home, I was sort of theirs for a while before I had to go cook dinner eventually, but there was that, a couple hours in between. And that's one thing I wanted to change that my mama didn't do. My mother was a gift of service, and she worked constantly at the house. She was always in the kitchen, and that was her love language. But I wanted to listen to my children, and I realized I'm just so thankful God showed me they're not going to be here long. One day, they're not going to be here for you to listen to them, and you better listen now. And I often realized, too, that as they got to be teenagers, the time that they wanted me to listen to them was when I was almost out like a light. They'd be gone, and they wouldn't get home till after football games, late at night or something, and I was so tired. And I remember sitting up in the bed just going, oh, yeah. I remember doing that a lot, and I was determined to do that. And but the thing that I didn't do, the thing that I did that I wish I had not done, is lose my temper with them. One especially, she knows who it is. And one of my daughters kind of raised herself, and the other one, and it was because part of it was because that daughter and I are so much alike, and so we never had any struggles. My other daughter, we had a little more struggle with, and I lost my temper with her way more than I wish I
have one that way too. Yes,
yeah,
and I would feel the same way.
And but the Lord has brought us together. I mean, we have a great relationship. She even told me that, yes, Mama, we have a great relationship now. And so we got through it. But yeah, I wish I had been more patient and tried to understand. She's just different.
Something that I'm kind of starting to see the fruit of, and I have many years to go. I mean, I still have a 5-year-old. But someone told me, and I can't remember who, it may have been one of you actually, I'm not sure, is to pray that God would reveal things to you that you need to know about your kids. Because we're not with them all the time. And they're off and they're making decisions and they're having conversations or whatever. And so I am seeing the fruit of that, and I'm so thankful. Just in different ways, God is is bringing things to light for me that I need to know about. And they're not all terrible. I mean, there's good things too, but that's something that I'm thankful someone shared with me.
That's a blessing.
It really is, and I would encourage all moms to pray that, because it's a blessing to see. Because it's only Him that's doing that. And I wish I was a little slower to raise my voice, if I'm being honest. I feel like I'm better now than I was 5 years ago. A little slower to raise my voice. I'm not where I need to be, but I wish I was a little slower in those situations to stay a little calmer.
We're all nodding because we all we all think the exact same thing. That's every single household.
Yes,
Completely.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Completely.
You want to chime in on any of that?
No.
You're just going to let the moms speak?
No, I'm soaking it all in. I'm taking
And one of the
mental
things
notes.
I'm so thankful for is that Jesus knew that we needed a helper. So He left us a helper because we all need help in parenting, in mothering.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Do you, Ann touched on this earlier with the devotion that Rick did with their girls during breakfast time, but what are some things that maybe you all did or do that help teach your kids about God? And maybe it's changed from what you did with your older kids to your younger kids.
Talking about devotions in the morning with Ty, Mia, and Krista, we had a 15-minute drive to school, and so I had a devotion book in the car, and so one of them would read that devotion book every morning on the drive to school, and I cherished that, and I pray that they did too. I pray that there's fruit, coming from that, and I can remember when they would all start driving themselves, how I missed that time. And so now with Eli, we have a 4-minute drive to school, literally. But it's the neatest thing. God put a little devotion book that takes 4 minutes, and it's so rich. Like every day, it's so rich. And he needs more than 4 minutes, and he gets more than 4 minutes. But I'm thankful that I found that little devotion book. I'm like, thank you, God. So so we do that. I think it's been important for the kids to be involved in whatever the church has to offer. And I also have my older ones, especially, tried to instill in them that you don't go to church to see what you get out of the church. You go to the church to see what you can give to the church. And just your presence is a lot. Just being there, being involved in whatever's going on is big too.
I remember, when our girls were growing up, Rick went on a lot of mission trips, and those had a real impact upon the girls. And when they got old enough to go, they've been on many. They both have been on many mission trips. And, of course, Laurel went on one mission trip where she found her husband. So that was a pretty good one. But that made a big difference in them. And and another thing I remember is I started taking precept Bible studies that I now lead when Laurel, our first one, was 4 months old. And they grew up with me. They don't know me any other way except, like during their nap times, and they were great nap takers. Praise the Lord, until they went to kindergarten. That was my study time. And I do have some of my first precept books where they're scribbling in my workbook.
Wow.
No.
And I don't even remember that happening. I guess it was just common or something. I don't know. But I have found it through the years. I have found it a couple of places. And they love the Word of God. And I don't know that that's the reason why, but that's probably contributes to the fact that we love God's Word. And they saw that. And so I'm hoping that that's part of what
Oh, that's what I was going to say. You said I saw that question, I was going to say it's important for the mother to be growing in their relationship with the Lord.
Yes.
If we want our children for their relationship to grow in the Lord, it's so important for the mother.
Yeah, the scriptures tell us that we're to teach our children the commands of God, and we can't teach them if we don't know them. So it's our responsibility for our children to know them first.
I know as a child, every morning before school, we would all be rushing out, but my dad would stop us at the back door and pray. And then every single night, the 5 of us gathered around in mine and Lori's bedroom, and we had our family devotions without fail. That was our morning. That was our night. And I can't say I'm 100% on that with my own kids. I wish I was better. We hit most mornings and or nights. And with the different ages, they're going to bed at different times and they're in different activities. But that was so instilled in me that I feel like it's missing when I don't do it with my kids. So I pray that my kids feel that one day. Like I feel like, oh, shoot, I sent them out the door today and we didn't have even a prayer time, or I'll read to them while I think I learned from y'all, I'll read to the boys while they're eating, from a little devotional right there in the kitchen, and their heads are still down. They'll come up soon.
Yep.
But I know they're hearing it. I do know they're hearing
That's
it.
right. They do hear it.
And so I'm praying that the kids feel that one day with their kids, that they feel like that's all I've ever done, and I need to do better. I'm admitting that, but I'm thankful my parents instilled that in me for sure.
Ann mentioned precept studies. I can remember, this is a cute story I'll tell on Mia real quick. When Ty was in kindergarten, his kindergarten teacher, I didn't know at the time when I saw her name, I didn't know her married name, but I had actually worked with her in the past when I was in college. So I kind of felt like I had a little bit of a relationship with her. Well, she was expecting when Ty had her in kindergarten, and she had the baby, and the baby had Down syndrome, and they hadn't told anybody. They knew it was going to have Down syndrome, but they hadn't told anybody. And so God just impressed it on my heart, since I knew her sort of before kindergarten, that I needed to go to the hospital. And so I went to the hospital. I wanted to read some scripture to her just to encourage her, because it was a surprise to me. It wasn't to her, but it was a surprise to me. And so as I was walking out the door, she knew I was involved with a Moms in Prayer group for the school. And she said, Sondra, add to your list where Victoria will stay when I go back to work. This was October, and she was going to have to go back to work in January. So I said, okay, yes, thank you. I'll add that to our prayer request list or whatever through the school. And I got in that parking garage at the hospital, and I didn't hear an audible voice, but I heard God say, you're going to be watching Victoria. And I was like, what? Okay, So anyway, and God had to work in me, to be on board with that, because I didn't even know if she was going to have lots of disabilities, or anything. It turned out she did not, hardly, just some delays. But anyway, so I kept Victoria from Ty's kindergarten year through his second grade year, so for 3 years. Wow. And when Ty was, Ty was 6 in kindergarten, so that would have meant Mia was 4, and I was coming to precept with Mia and Krista and Victoria. Well, so one Wednesday after Bible study, I was going to take Victoria to the school instead of her mama come to my house to pick her up. So I took her to the school, and they were having their little teachers meeting, like the kindergarten teachers after school were all meeting in the classroom. And so I was just going to take Victoria into Miss Griffin, and she knew she was coming. And Mia and Krista walked in there with me. And when I took her in there, I kind of peeked in the door, and Mia said, Mama, stop. You're going to interrupt their Bible study. And so I thought that was so cute. I was thankful that she recognized, on Wednesdays we do Bible study. Mama goes to Bible study class. So I thought that was cute. Yeah. That took a long time to tell that story. Sorry.
No, you're good.
We
You're good.
ramble way more than that.
Completely. Yeah. What is something that you wish that either people without children or men knew about the pressure of being a mom?
I know for me, my brain does not turn off. It is in constant motion times 4, and then a husband and a family, household. My brain does not stop. So it's exhausting. Like in that way, it's a mental exhaustion. It's just, especially when they're in school and activities, and you got to remember you wear red on this day, and this practice is this time, and all the different things. This meeting is this day, and it's just mentally a lot. I don't know where I'm going with that, but it's just a lot. It's like our brains. I can't compartmentalize it. It's just like a constant Rolodex of just things I need to do and remember, and he needs that uniform for tomorrow, so I've got to soak it tonight. It's just like a constant thought of the next thing, and so it's a lot mentally.
I don't think you have to go anywhere. That's it. That is the
That's plenty.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
plenty.
Oh.
Yeah.
I think for me, what I would say to someone who didn't know is you have no idea what it's like to have adult children. It's harder in a lot of ways than having little children. And you explained earlier, like when your kids are little, it's mostly physical.
Mm-hmm.
And it gets more emotional the older they get. And one thing that I have thought about ever since you asked about me doing this is that, I've heard a lot of people say my adult children are my best friends. No. I don't agree with I mean, that may be true, but no, that's not true in our family. I'm their mama.
Yeah.
And even though I have 30 and 40-year-old kids, they will always be my children. I will always be their mama. Now, we're close, but they have their best friends. I have my best friends, and I'm not I'm their friend, but I'm their mama first. And being a mama or a daddy is emotionally the hardest thing that most anybody could ever do. Because when things don't go right for your adult children, it hurts as much as, you don't let go of that stuff. And lots of times adult problems are worse than children problems. Sometimes they aren't, but a lot of times they are. And so that's what I would want people to know is that it doesn't get easier in a lot of ways. Being a parent, you're always the parent, and it's going to grab your heart, and they don't let go,
My kids are not adults yet, but I can imagine that the problems are financial problems, job problems, like they have bigger consequences.
Yes.
Than when they're little kid. Little kid
Exactly.
gets in trouble or whatever at school maybe, and that's a pretty temporary consequence. But losing a job, a huge financial hit, problem with their own children of some time, that's the consequences are bigger.
Yeah,
and
that's
longer
a good
lasting.
way to put it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, with Ty just getting married and the way the market is and all, 3 days before his wedding, he happened to total his car on the interstate. Everybody was okay. And it wasn't his fault, thankfully. But so he's still looking for a vehicle, and that's a big deal for a newly married couple, to Dana referred to this a little bit earlier somehow, but Dennis would tell you he always remembers me saying this even before I had one child, I think, that I've always said I would have a dozen of them if I could have kept up with them. And I didn't mean physically, I meant mentally and emotionally, because that's a tough job.
Do you all have a calendar, like a family calendar that you keep?
Oh, yes.
color coded.
Couldn't live without it.
Because we have one too. We only have 2 kids, but in our calendar is full. They're both involved in a lot of stuff, and to double that, whoo, that's crazy.
But thinking about whether they're little or they're big or adults, I remember years ago, Anne, I think, shared a verse, Lamentations 2:19, that says, "Pour out your heart like water before the Lord for your children." And that is so important to live by, and we really do have to live by that, just to pour out our hearts before Him for our children, no matter the age.
Yeah. That's the one thing, I don't know why I didn't think of this earlier when you asked the question, Stefano, but one thing I wish I had done more of is pray. And we prayed. Did I say that?
You did, yeah, you did.
See, well, I'm 70 years old. I don't remember anything.
You're good.
But
Keep
I
saying
amened
Keep
it.
saying
Yes,
it.
we all
Absolutely.
But
amened
it's,
it.
Can't say
it
that
is,
enough.
I can't say it enough. We prayed a lot, but we needed to pray more.
I have been privileged to pray since Ty was in kindergarten at 6, and now he's 23, and with all my kids to pray, and a lot of it's been with Dana too, but every Monday morning consistently for the children in their schools, for their staff, with the other mothers, and that is, I'm just so thankful for that time. That's been such a blessing to be able to pray specifically each week. And obviously we pray every day, but with a group of mothers, that's been a blessing.
Piece of advice, Anne, you gave, I'm not sure when, and it kind of is along the lines of major on the majors, minor on the minors. But you said, keep your words few, because you found the more you talked, or maybe not in your personal experience, but you learned that the more you talk, they're just going to tune you out. But if you can keep your words few, and you can probably say this a lot better than I'm saying it, they're more apt to listen to you. I mean, would you agree with that? And I've tried to adopt that since I learned that from you, because I can I can pick, I can be on them, I can nag, or I've had to back off, and I'm trying to do better, because some of the things are not a big deal,
And they just start going,
yeah. I don't want them to close me off completely, so I've got to just pick and choose when to say what and how much to say. So I thought that's been good advice, Anne. Thank you.
This is good. This is really good, because I'm realizing how much I fail.
No, not at all. Not at all.
This is experience
Because
talking.
no, that's a good one, because what you just said, because Grant is 4, and I can be sitting there talking to him, and then I'm like, he's not getting anything I'm saying. So
you can sort of
that's
see
a
the
good
blank look.
Yes, he's just staring, just off.
But what
So
about
that's
that puppy
good
dog,
stuff.
Daddy?
Exactly. There's a butterfly.
Yeah.
Stefano, that you just made me remember. I remember when Ty was 2, we did a class here with, I think it was James Dobson, called Bringing Up Boys. And I remember thinking, and we had invited some neighbors that had older boys, like upper elementary, maybe even middle school. They didn't go to church, and they said they'd come. We were so thankful. And I can remember coming to church, with them and thinking, yeah, I mean, I'm glad I'm coming, but Ty's only 2. I don't really need this class yet. And I remember when I got to that class, I was like, I wish I'd had this before he was born, And so it's just so important to get direction from the Lord in every phase of parenting before they hit that phase, sort of,
Well, Miss Ann has been gracious enough to let us throw on her the closing Bible verse. I cannot speak today. Oh, my goodness.
It's nerves.
But Miss Ann, please send us home with a Bible verse.
Yes, this is from Proverbs 22:6. Train up a child according to his way, even when he is old, he will not depart from it. Train.
So we cannot say it any better than that. Make sure that you are parenting on your knees and major on the majors, not on the minors.
Amen.
We're going to close it out with that. So thank you all for listening. We hope that you enjoyed this episode as much as we did, and we will see you again next week. It's just that easy, ladies. Go.
Nice.
It did go by pretty fast.
Yeah.
It did go by really fast.
Thank you all so much.
Stefano, you said that, and I did mean to say it on there, but not, I mean, it doesn't matter, but God, what you feel like you fell at, God picks up those pieces, you know? Yes, that's right. That's right. Yes,
Thank goodness.
yes, that's right.
Thanks for listening to GPS to God. Make sure you leave a rating or review on whichever app you happen to use. Also, find us on YouTube and be sure to subscribe to our channel.